So, since Valentine's is this week, I wanted to do a video talking about my favorite book couples in specifically Christian fantasy because that's what I've been on my reread binge for. My baby's in the room again, so if you hear little coos, that's him. Hopefully they stay at coos and don't start morphing into cries. If they do, we will be cutting off the video, so you know. But anyway, so yeah, I just want to talk about some of my favorite couples in Christian fantasy. I kind of wanted to do my favorite book couples overall, but that's going to require a lot more rereading than I've had time to do. So we're just sticking with Christian fantasy. Let's just get started. I've got my list here, and so I will just go through. I've got a lot, so I probably won't talk too much about any of them. Yeah, and I generally tend to just like love the canon couples in most things. Reylo is an exception in Star Wars. Not a fan of that. And it's barely canon anyway, but still. That's like the big exception. There are two non-canon couples on this list, but I think enough of the fandom ships them that like it's not a weird thing or anything. Alright, without any further ado, we are starting with my all-time favorite couple from any book ever. My all-time favorite fictional couple. And that is actually not from Lord of the Rings, but this is the closest I've got physically. I have no idea where my copies of the Silmarillion are. But that is, as you might have guessed by that Silmarillion reference, Beren and Luthien. Oh my goodness, Beren and Luthien. I love it. I love their story so much. They, well, I mean, yeah, I love it. I do. But, Beren and Luthien, if you don't know, they meet in the woods. He sees her dancing and, hears her singing. And then they decide they're in love, which is a little insta-lovey, but also it's like very much controlled by fate. I mean, fate. It's God. And then her father says, if you want to marry her, you're going to go... Oh, spoilers, by the way, for every book in this video. If I hold up a book that you've not read, or flash one on the screen that you've not read, suggest you stop watching because I will be spoiling it. But her father says, you can't, because you're a human, she is an elf, you can't marry her unless you go and steal a Silmaril, a special shiny stone, from Morgoth, who is Satan, as in, like, Sauron's boss. If you didn't know, Sauron in Lord of the Rings has a boss in the Silmarillion, so he's even worse than Sauron. Yeah, Sauron's not actually Satan. It's Morgoth. But anyway, so Beren says, okay, fine, that's such a low price for such someone like your daughter that I'm gonna go get it anyway. Because, of course, the intent was for him to die doing it. But, he goes off. Luthien wants to go with him, but her dad locks her up in a tower. She somehow, because her mother is, like, an angel, it's a little complicated. But her mother is kind of an angel, so she's able to grow out her hair really long and climb out of the treehouse that he imprisons her in, using her hair as a ladder, aka she's the origin of Rapunzel. She also weaves a magic cloak with her hair. They then get into many misadventures in which she rescues him out of all of them. And then, major spoilers for the story of Beren and Luthien if you're not there yet. He dies trying to get the Silmaril. She dies of grief because of that, follows him to death, and then argues with the angel who is in charge of the dead and, like, convinces him to let them both come back to life. Like, that is how strong their love is. I love them so much. Yeah, Beren and Luthien are my faves. Ever. Just ever. Next, I have Tuor and Idril, which is also a human-elf couple. Unlike in this one, though, her dad is not a jerk. And basically, he just lets them get married and everything is fine. Well, everything is not fine, but they're also the most... Yeah. They're also the most normal people here. Like, they have... Or, maybe not normal, but they have the... like, happiest ending, probably, of... Well, not all of them, but like in the Silmarillion, they probably have the happiest lives, which is saying a lot because the city that they live in gets destroyed and they nearly die. But they're still the happiest people. It's bad. Silmarillion gets bad, guys. But anyway, Tuor and Idril, love them as well. Basically, any couple where they just like defy fate, yeah, I'm gonna be a fan of that. Okay, next on my list is Arundel and Elwing. Arundel and Elwing just are precious. I love them. First of all, I love the fact that they're both the only two half-elves around anymore. And so they just come together and they're like, yeah, so we're just gonna love each other because we're the only person like us. It's great. And their sons, yeah, are just also the most amazing people ever. Eärendil and Elwing are Elrond's parents. How did I forget Elrond's name, guys? I don't know. But anyway, they're also, yeah, Elrond has a twin brother. Aragorn is descended from Elrond's twin brother, for those of you who are just movie fans. So, if that helps. But yeah, love Eärendil and Elwing as well. I love how, they make it to the Undying Lands and she refuses, like, he tells her, don't set foot on here because they've all been banned. They're not allowed to come back to the Undying Lands. And he says, I've got to set foot on here, but on this ground, but nobody else do it. And she's like, no, I'm going to share your fate no matter what. And so she gets out of the boat and stands on the ground. She just stays on the shore, to which I ask why. Didn't you just look around at least? But anyway, yeah, love them as well. And then Galadriel and Celeborn. It's kind of, that one might be a little bit of a surprise, but just Tolkien is great at like subtle understatements that just say so much, like little lines that just say so much. And the line for them is, that says so much, is, and great love was between them, or something. It's just precious. I love them. And hey, they really do actually have a happy ending, other than them separating at the very end of Lord of the Rings. So again, spoilers for Lord of the Rings, sorry. But they end up separating at the end of the Lord of the Rings, but it's with the understanding that they'll come back together one day. Next, I have Elrond and Celebrian. Celebrian is Galadriel and Celeborn's daughter. Yes, Elrond is Galadriel's son-in-law. The things you learn when you read the appendices. Yeah, the appendices at the back tell you about Elrond's wife, Arwen's mom, and it's, just, yeah. We don't see much of their romance. What we do see is there at the end, when he goes to finally be with her. Like, it's just so good. I love it. So she, was captured by orcs and tortured until she had to sail to the Undying Lands because there was no healing for her left in Middle-earth. And so she sailed and left behind Elrond and Arwen and their twin sons, because also Elrond has sons that the movie decided not to include for some reason. But anyway, I just, at the end where he goes to finally be with her, it's just precious. I love it. Okay, next is my original big OTP, like favorite OTP ever, was Aragorn and Arwen. Because Aragorn and Arwen. But Beren and Luthien surpassed them for basically the same reasons, except they're more epic. Beren and Luthien are Aragorn and Arwen, but more epic. I feel like I don't have to explain quite as much with some of these, because everyone kind of knows Arwen gives up her immortality for Aragorn, just like that in and of itself. You're giving up immortality to be with somebody, I'm gonna ship you. Like that's almost, you're almost guaranteed to get me with that one. Alright, next is Faramir and Eowyn. Just everything about the chapter, The Houses of Healing, I think that's the name of it. Just everything about that. Go read that chapter. If you don't know why I ship Faramir and Eowyn, go read that chapter and come back and tell me you don't ship them. Because you'll be lying. Because you'll ship them. Because they are amazing and I love them. I love how he does, the big thing is that Eowyn, the movie doesn't portray this as much. It's still there, but the movie cuts out her arc in quite a few ways. But Eowyn is such a broken woman. And the movie kind of doesn't show that. It kind of implies it in a lot of ways, but I don't feel like it shows it to the extent that the book does. To the point that you get in the book, she rides with the Riders of Rohan. The reason she goes to battle in the first place is just because she's ready to die. Like, she's going on a suicide quest. And then she's in the House of the Feeling, and she just wants to go ride out with the army again, even though she's still healing, because she just wants to die. Because Aragorn doesn't love her. And there's other reasons, like her culture only values, or doesn't only value, but it highly elevates the warrior status, which belongs to men, like lots of things. There's lots of elements to this. But just the way that Faramir is so tender with her, and just, oh, man. So good. It's so good. Yes, love them. Alright, so now on kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm going to talk about Cor and Erebus, because I love them so much. So in Horse and His Boy, these are the main two kids. And they're kids in the book, but by the end their romance is really one line. Their romance is really one line, but it is such a good line that I have to read it out loud because it is wonderful. And again, so spoilers for Horse and His Boy. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Drop everything, go read Narnia now if you haven't read Narnia. Why are you watching my videos? You should go read Narnia. That's better. That's better than watching my videos. Go read Narnia. Anyway, spoilers for Horse and His Boy. But Erebus also had many quarrels and I'm afraid even fights with Cor. But they always made it up again, so that years later, when they were grown up, they were so used to quarreling and making up again that they got married so as to go on doing it more conveniently. Now, obviously, there is more to their relationship than just that, and you can see how well they work together and stuff in the book as well, but it's just so good. I love, that's one of the best lines. And, yes, I love them. Yeah, not much to say about them, but I love them very much. Alright, so my next couple is also from Narnia. There's not a lot of couples in Narnia. You're thinking, how are you coming up with 2? Well, I actually have 4, so, yeah. Anyway, my next Narnia couple is Caspian and Ramandu's daughter. And again, I have a line I want to read. Caspian says, "In the world from which my friends come, they have a story of a prince or a king coming to a castle where all the people lay in an enchanted sleep. In that story, he could not dissolve the enchantment until he had kissed the princess. But here," said the girl, "it is different. Here he cannot kiss the princess till he has dissolved the enchantment." I just love that. It's so precious. Just adorable little flirting. It's cute. I also love this line because it definitely tells you that either in Prince Caspian, sometime during Prince Caspian, or during Voyage of the Dawn Treader on the boat, Edmund and Lucy were, or Peter and Susan if it was during Prince Caspian, but I would imagine it's more likely on the boat. They told Caspian fairy tales. At least Sleeping Beauty, if not also others. I love that. That's so cute. My other 2 Narnia couples on this list are, I think, my only 2 non-canon couples, and they are Jill and Eustace and Diggory and Polly. I know they never actually got together, but I really wanted them to, so we're just going to pretend that they did. Or would have, in Jill and Eustace's case, would have if they'd have lived longer. And I love Friends to Lovers. It's just so great. Also that, alright, my next couples are from, another one of my favorite series that no one else has heard of. And it is from the Alon book series. And these couples are Ellis and Shannon, Tyrone and Tristine, and Nigel and Merritt. And I love all 3 of them. Yeah, they're just so precious and wonderful, and I love them. Yeah, I don't have nearly as many thoughts about the rest of the couples on this list, which is good because I talked for a long time about the first few. So, yes. And I don't have those books with me either to look up, but yeah. The Alon series is kind of like Narnia. It's non-magical fantasy, about, there are definitely David parallels from the Bible, and Narnia parallels and stuff. It's really good. Highly recommend. Next are couples from the Barenfell Prophecy series. I love Tommy and Kat, and Jimmy and Regis, and Gold Arrow and Grim Warden. They are, Tommy and Kat and Jimmy and Regis are just, they're the younger couples, and they're just precious, and I love them, especially Tommy and Kat. But Gold Arrow and Grim Warden, I forgot until this reread how much I ship them, but they are so amazing. I love them. I just love them very much. Alright, my next couple is Aidan and Gwen from The Door Within. / also Alec and Antoinette. I love them. Again, the rest of this list is not going to be nearly as deep. I love them. Most of them. There is actually one that I am probably going to go deep in. I also, not as much I guess, but I also love Jana and Sarah from Wingfeather. I know Sarah's not in this book, but I do love them. Alright, next I have Gavinaugh and Kiana from Kingdom's Quest, and this one I actually do have thoughts on. I love how, now, let's first address the fact that Gavinaugh is the Paul parallel, and Paul, we know in the Bible, was not married. 2 Corinthians 7, or 1 Corinthians 7. Paul explicitly puts himself with the unmarried, possibly with the widows, and or divorcees, so it could be that, like, his wife died, or left him, or something, I don't know, but, we know in the Bible that by the time he's an apostle, he's not married. But the explanation at the back really makes this, why I ship this. Because Gavinaugh and Kiana's relationship is, per Chuck Black, a symbol of Paul's coming acceptance of the Gentiles. And I love that. I love it very much. And then I love Dalton and Carlos from Lady Carlos in the Waters of Meru, and also Sir Dalton in the Shadowheart, the book before this. I love them. They're precious. And Dalton is dumb and doesn't realize that he should be with Carlos in the first book, but it's fine. He figures it out by the end. But yeah, I love them too. And then finally, the newest addition to this list, I have Damien and Celine from the Ravenwood Saga, and I'm holding up book 2 because their relationship really thrives in book 2. I just finished book 2 not too long ago. It was so good. Not as good as book 1, and there was a scene that I was not a fan of. If you read this book, you know what I'm talking about. It's nothing too bad, but it was, I love how Celine is so broken, and Damien is a little too, but Celine definitely, and she just comes to feel love for the first time through Damien, and it's just, this was so good. I really need to read book 3 now that I've read book 2, I need to read book 3. So, these are some of the books that have some of my favorite couples in them, in Christian fantasy. I've done most of my rereads that I want to by now, so I think that's probably the full list. But yeah, thank you for watching, and happy Valentine's Day!